Last night's news did not just mark another flare-up in the Middle East. It signaled a dangerous shift from limited retaliation toward a wider conflict with implications for global energy supplies, regional stability, and U.S. military posture across the Gulf. Looking ahead, the trajectory of this conflict will depend on the choices made by both the U.S. and Iran in the coming days. Recent events have escalated tensions between the two nations, particularly following the U.S. decision to revoke a waiver that previously allowed Iranian oil exports. This move is poised to inflict severe economic strain on Tehran, which relies heavily on oil revenue to support its economy. Iran's economy has already been struggling due to previous sanctions, and this latest action could exacerbate financial hardship for its citizens. In response, Iranian officials have vowed to protect their national interests, leading to fears of military retaliation. The Iranian leadership faces internal pressure to respond forcefully to perceived threats, which could lead to aggressive military posturing. If either side opts for further escalation, we could witness increased strikes on military bases, heightened tensions in the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz, and significant spikes in global oil prices. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical choke point for global oil shipments, and any disruption could send shockwaves through international markets. The global economy remains sensitive to fluctuations in oil supply, meaning any disruptions could have widespread repercussions and potentially affecting inflation rates and energy costs worldwide. Experts predict a range of outcomes, from a dangerous escalation of military conflict to potential diplomatic interventions aimed at de-escalation. Historical precedents show that similar conflicts have often spiraled out of control, leading to unintended consequences. The critical question now is whether both sides will engage in a cycle of retaliation or seek a path toward renewed diplomatic efforts. In the coming days, observers should monitor military movements and public statements from both sides, as these will be crucial indicators of the direction of this conflict. The next few days will be pivotal in determining whether diplomacy can prevail over aggression. To understand the current escalation, it is essential to look back at the sequence of events leading to this point. The conflict has its roots in a series of tit-for-tat incidents that began weeks ago, escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran. The fragile ceasefire, which had lasted for about 3 weeks, was already under significant strain before last night's events. The U.S. initiated a series of strikes against Iranian positions following President Trump's declaration that the ceasefire was over. This decision marked a pivotal turning point, as it effectively dismantled any hopes for peaceful negotiations. Iran's response was swift and uncompromising, demonstrating its willingness to retaliate against U.S. interests in the region. Previous confrontations between the two nations have often ended in temporary pauses, but this time it appears that both sides are moving toward a more aggressive posture. The history of U.S.-Iran relations is fraught with conflict, beginning with the 1979 Iranian Revolution, which saw the overthrow of a U.S.-backed regime. Subsequent military encounters, economic sanctions, and proxy wars have fueled a cycle of distrust. The current situation is further complicated by regional actors and allies, each with vested interests in the outcome. As tensions rise, the potential for miscalculation increases, raising the stakes for both parties and the broader international community. The impact of these developments could be profound, affecting not only the immediate region, but also global oil markets and international diplomacy. Analysts warn that an extended conflict could draw in other nations, potentially leading to a wider confrontation. Moving forward, the challenge will be finding a pathway to de-escalation amidst entrenched positions. Diplomatic efforts must intensify, as both nations face increasing pressure to avoid a full-scale conflict that could have catastrophic consequences for all involved. The recent escalation of tensions in the Strait of Hormuz highlights the critical geopolitical dynamics at play in the region. This narrow waterway serves as a vital conduit for global oil supplies, with approximately 20% of the world's petroleum transiting through it daily. The strategic significance of the strait cannot be overstated, as it connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, making it essential for oil exports from major producers like Saudi Arabia and Iran. In recent weeks, military maneuvers and aggressive rhetoric have raised concerns about potential disruptions in this key maritime route, leading to heightened anxiety in global markets. The implications of renewed conflict in this region extend far beyond immediate military concerns. Oil prices have surged nearly 6% in response to fears of further hostilities, prompting analysts to predict a ripple effect across global economies. Escalating oil prices often lead to increased shipping insurance costs, which can drive up operational expenses for businesses reliant on maritime trade. This situation can trigger inflationary pressures that affect consumers worldwide, impacting everything from transportation costs to the price of goods. The potential for heightened military engagement not only threatens the stability of the Gulf region, but can also draw in U.S. allies such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, escalating tensions further. The economic impact of this situation is profound. Millions of people rely on stable energy prices for their daily livelihoods, and any disruption in oil supply can lead to significant rises in fuel prices at the pump. Furthermore, the interconnected nature of the global economy means that increased costs in one sector can lead to higher prices for goods and services across the board. This scenario raises concerns for households and businesses alike, as inflationary pressures could dampen economic growth and consumer spending. Looking ahead, the situation remains precarious. The international community must navigate a complex web of alliances and rivalries to avert a full-scale conflict. Diplomatic efforts aimed at de-escalation are critical, as failure to address these tensions could result in a protracted crisis. The stakes are high, and stakeholders must prioritize dialogue to ensure energy security and economic stability in the coming months. In a dramatic escalation of hostilities, the U.S. military conducted airstrikes against Iranian targets late last night, marking a significant intensification in the ongoing conflict. According to reports from Reuters, these strikes targeted multiple locations within Iran, prompting an immediate and forceful response from Tehran. Iranian armed forces retaliated by launching missiles and drones aimed at U.S. military bases located in Kuwait and Bahrain. The situation has deteriorated rapidly, straining a ceasefire agreement that had been tenuous at best. This latest round of violence comes amid rising tensions that have simmered for years, fueled by long-standing grievances over Iran's nuclear program and its influence in the region. The Iranian strikes were described as the most aggressive response in recent months, indicating a shift from restrained responses to a more direct confrontation. This volley of attacks and counterattacks is not merely a series of isolated incidents. It represents a significant breakdown of diplomacy and mutual restraint. The ramifications of this escalation are already being felt across global markets. Oil prices surged approximately 6% as fears grew regarding the security of oil shipments through the strategically crucial Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply is transported. The U.S. stock market also felt the impact, with shares falling as investors reacted to the heightened risks in the region. Analysts warn that sustained conflict could lead to further disruptions in energy supplies, which would have cascading effects on global economies already grappling with inflation and supply chain issues. Looking ahead, the potential for a broader conflict looms large, with both sides seemingly unwilling to back down. The U.S. has indicated that it will continue to protect its interests in the region, which could lead to more military engagements. Meanwhile, Iran's leadership may feel pressured to respond decisively to maintain its domestic standing. As diplomatic avenues appear increasingly distant, the international community must grapple with the urgent need for negotiations to prevent a full-scale war. The coming days will be critical, as the actions taken by both the U.S. and Iran may determine whether this conflict can be contained or if it will escalate into a wider confrontation in the Middle East. The key takeaway is that this is no longer just a bilateral clash. What do you think will happen next? Share your predictions in the comments and subscribe for daily deep dives into the world's most pressing issues.